This is the house I've lived at since I was 5 years old. So that was 1950. Two of my three sisters and my parents, and this is the house literally where my dad died. Just in this room here. And I went to the school a block away, I played at the park a block away, go fishing by the Colorado River, which is 4 blocks down. So my whole personal history is this area. I remember there was a passage in the book of Genesis said that in the Garden of Eden there was the river, and it flowed out in the 4 directions. And I began thinking that, gosh, I mean, the Colorado River going from west to east, intersected by Congress going north to south. Personally, this is my Garden of Eden, and also 6 generations now of my family. This is where the memories that I have began. Whenever I'm here, I'm always reminded, especially of my dad. On weekends, we invariably would come here to fish. And in part that was to supplement our food resources. And it was just he and I. And those are some of my most cherished memories. It was totally different from what's here now. It was like a wild and woolly place that anything could happen. Once we were coming across, and he says there's quicksand, so I rode on his shoulders as he would find the more solid pieces of ground for us to cross over. He loved it. I mean, we'd spend the whole day, and he loved it. You know, at the end of his life with Lou Gehrig's disease, it was our time to be together again. Like I said, I moved in a recliner next to his hospital bed, and so we were constantly together. And you know, it was, to me, to have those associations and memories come together again with the both of us. This is the place that they've given me their lives, in effect, as a gift. And whenever I tell their stories, I have this opportunity to let them speak through me. They can walk and talk, as it were, among the living for a time, you know. And I feel this tremendous sense of pride, not in myself, but in that I can keep their memories alive. My mother and her sister were like storytellers. They weren't prominent or significant enough to have information written about them. And this goes for the community in general. And so it's listening to the stories, and it's how they kept alive. So I've heard stories about not only my parents, but my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents. This is the tombstone of my great-grandmother, Carlota Luna Fuentes Salazar. Also, it's the site of the burial place of her mother, and that's Pilar Nava Luna. And also, one of my great-grandmother's sons is buried at this spot also. But she's the only one that has a headstone. And she died when I was 7. And I remember going to visit her because my grandmother was her caretaker in her later years. This is my great-grandmother, Carlota Luna Fuentes. Her husband, my great-grandfather, Toribio Fuentes. And somewhere in this 30-foot square lot section is where my great-grandfather, Toribio Fuentes, is buried. Died in 1900. The family lost memory of where his burial was, and it wasn't until I did research in the 1990s going through the Oakwood Sexton ledgers that I found out that this was the spot that he was buried. I found that where my great-grandfather was buried was in a location that wasn't where Mexican Americans were buried. That was peculiar, so I went ahead and checked all the Mexican burials in that lot for years 1900, 1903, and I found out that there were 25 Mexican American burials all in that one lot in that 3-year period. I feel that personal connection with them because they are buried with my great-grandfather. And as small as the community was, their paths definitely would have crossed. My family history has never been just my family history, but the Mexican-American community's history in Austin. And I consider myself fortunate that the memories, the photos, the stories that have passed down are not only mine, but the community's stories and photos and history. They weren't political officials, they weren't the rich, they weren't the wealthy, but if you want the stories, of the poor, the struggling, like that poem at the Statue of Liberty, well, that's the story of my family and in part of all the immigrants who came to Austin. And I'm glad to share that with everyone because that's their story too.